Welcome back to the second part of One Man's Faith today. Now let's turn to Hebrews and continue our study in Hebrews chapter 8 today. We're going to Hebrews chapter 8. And this Hebrews chapter 8, well, let's go ahead and read it first and then we'll talk a little bit about it. Let's read the first 6 verses. Hebrews chapter 8. Now the main point in what has been said is this: we have such a high priest who has taken his seat at the right hand of the throne of majesty in the heavens, a minister in the sanctuary and in the true tabernacle, which the Lord pitched, not man. For every high priest is appointed to offer both gifts and sacrifices. So it is necessary that this high priest also have something to offer. Now, if he were on earth, he would not be a priest at all, since there are those who offer the gifts according to the law, who serve a copy and a shadow of the heavenly things, just as Moses was warned by God when he was about to erect the tabernacle. For see, he says, that you make all things according to the pattern which was shown to you on the mountain. But now he has ordained a more excellent ministry, by as much as he is also the mediator of a better covenant, which has been enacted on better promises. Okay, wow, there's a lot here. Now, let's go back. He says, now the main point is this. The main point of what? Well, basically, everything he's been saying. He's been setting us up as to who Jesus is, and his position. We have the comparison of Jesus and the angels. We have the comparison of Jesus and man and how he had to become a man. Then we have the comparison of Jesus and Moses. And then we move into Abraham. I had to think for a second. Abraham, Melchizedek, and how now Jesus is under the order of Melchizedek. He's a high priest under the order of Melchizedek. We talked about that last time. And Melchizedek is not really a name, but a title, because we looked at Melech Zedek, King of Righteousness. Okay, and that's who that person was. And he lived in the city of Salem, and we talked about Salem. It goes back to the word shalom. And so it's the city of peace. And Salem, if you put Jerusalem, then you have the city of peace. Okay, and we looked at that and we talked about that. And now he said all of that, and he comes and he says in chapter 8, he says, now the main point is this, that we have such a high priest, or in other words, we have a priest of this order who has taken his seat at the right hand of the throne of the majesty in the heavens. In other words, Jesus as high priest is sitting. In other words, his work has been done as the mediator. See, the high priest's job is to mediate between man and God. It's the high priest that offers the sacrifices. If you were to sin back in Israel's time, in Jerusalem, when Israel was a nation 3,000 years ago, if you sinned, you would go to the high priest and said, I've sinned, here's my offering or my sacrifice. And the priest would do 90% of the work. He wouldn't, Hebrews tells us. And so it's continuing on, and as his body, that's what we are to do. Now he says he's sitting at the right hand of majesty, a minister. Now that word for minister is the word that we get our word deacon from. All right, see, deacon is the ministry of a deacon is service. And here it says a minister. Jesus is serving. Remember, that's what he did to the disciples. He served them, and he said, hey, listen, if you can't be like this, You see, we're not supposed to just sit back and command things and people to be. We're supposed to serve one another. It's a good place to start. We're supposed to serve one another. We're supposed to serve the community. We're supposed to feed the poor. We're supposed to help those in need. All these things are what the church is supposed to do. So he is a minister in the sanctuary and in the true tabernacle. True tabernacle? Okay, let's go on. Which the Lord pitched, not men. You see, there is a tabernacle in heaven. As a matter of fact, in the end of Revelation, you see the tabernacle coming down. There is no temple, there is no church. There's only the tabernacle. In Revelations 21 and 22, we see the tabernacle. It is already built. Matter of fact, we're going to look at that, we're going to see that here in just a second. It's already built. God pitched a tabernacle. He said, for every high priest is appointed to offer gifts and sacrifices. That's his job or ministry. So it is necessary that this high priest, in other words, Jesus, also have something to offer. Now, if he were on earth, he would not be a priest at all. And we looked at that. There are a couple of reasons. One is he wasn't born into the tribe of Levi. Okay? He wasn't born into the tribe of Levi. Because it goes on and says, since there are those who offer the gifts according to the law. Okay? To offer gifts, to be a priest, you had to be from the tribe of Levi. Jesus came from the tribe of Judah. That's where David came from. According to the law, verse 5, who serve a copy and a shadow of the heavenly things, just as Moses was warned by God when Moses was about to erect the tabernacle. And he goes on and says, see, God says, that you make all things according to the pattern which was shown you on the mountain. Now, I want to look at that because, I don't think we get the total picture. I don't think we've gotten the total picture of what's happening. So let's go back to Exodus. Let's go back to Exodus and park there for just a few minutes. Go ahead and turn to Exodus 24, but let me bring you up to speed on what's happening here. In chapter 20, and if you want to look at that, you can. In chapter 20, God speaks to the people the Ten Commandments. Okay? God spoke the Ten Commandments. Matter of fact, I think chapter 20 opens with that statement that God spoke the Ten Commandments. Let's just look at that, Exodus 20. Yes, Exodus 20, verse 1. Then God spoke all these words. God spoke all these words, and he speaks the Ten Commandments. You shall not have no other gods before me. You shall not make any for yourselves any idols. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. You got to remember the Sabbath. Honor your father. Not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife. Okay? God spoke those. He actually spoke those. And it says, and the people perceived the thunder and the lightning flashes. This is verse 18 of chapter 20 in Exodus. And the sound of the trumpet and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they trembled and stood at a distance. They didn't want to be close to that. And they said to Moses, you speak to us, and we will listen. So Moses goes and God speaks to Moses, and in chapters 21 to 24, Moses receives all these ordinances about how they are to act. Okay? He says, if you buy a Hebrew slave, he shall serve you 6 years. if he strikes a man so that he dies, he shall surely be put to death. I mean, there are a bunch of commands listed in chapters 21 to 24. Now, in chapter 24, verse 4, it says, and Moses wrote down all the words of the law, all the words of the Lord. Okay, he hadn't gone up to the mountain yet. He had just gone up to the edge of the mountain, and God spoke to him. The ordinances and all that are listed in chapters 21 to 24, okay? Now let that soak in for a minute, because I've got to take a break, and I'll be right back.